in such a short period of time, and I want to say thank you to all the people who were willing to put up with this completely manic and totally insane schedule for putting this event together, which, to be perfectly honest, didn't even exist about 48 hours ago. How we managed to convince four of the biggest artists in the world to participate in an event in such a short time frame is actually a mystery even to me. But tonight, I think you guys have probably heard by now, though it wasn't on the invitation, that we're going to have The Killers. Followed by, I think, Jane's Addiction. An artist by the name of Snoop Dogg. And culminating with DJ Cascade. So thank you guys all for coming. Dan, you want to say anything?
Yeah, I mean, this is so awesome. So thanks, Sean, and for everyone else organizing this. This is just truly, truly, truly awesome. So I guess I really wanted to start this off by saying, one of the remarks I made in the keynote was really that a bit over 10 years ago, the music industry changed with Napster. And what it didn't really kind of paint the picture of was that Napster, for me personally, was probably the biggest event in my life when it comes to internet. It really changed how I consume music, the way, my favorite artists, how I shared music with friends, and all those things. So I guess, watching the keynote that I did today with Spotify, it would be really interesting hearing your perspective about, is this what you saw 10 years ago?
This is actually very similar to what I dreamt of 10 years ago. Actually, what Sean Fanning and I, Sean was just up here a second ago, what Sean and I both dreamt of. We never really wanted to create a service. We were music fans, and so we never really wanted to create a service for, to destroy the record business or to hurt artists in any way. The goal was always just to create a more open and frictionless system, a system that was dramatically more convenient and dramatically easier to use than anything that had preceded it. And we believed deeply that we would succeed in striking deals with the record labels in order to create a legitimate service. And I think in some ways we were ahead of our time. And for 10 years I watched and waited, sort of sitting on the sidelines for a service that had those same dynamics that we'd seen at Napster, which is the immediate gratification, the instantaneous access to all the world's music at your fingertips. A service that was more convenient and easier to use than piracy. You had to get a set of things right. You had to have this instantaneous access. You had to have a fast interface. You needed to have the whole, that whole depth and breadth of the music libraries of all the major labels and all the indie labels all in one place. You couldn't compromise in that regard. Spotify was the first product that I saw that was able to deliver on that original promise of Napster. That was where the bar was set about 11 years ago. And I honestly believe that no service could ever offer a legitimate solution for the music industry if it didn't at least meet and then further exceed the bar that had been set by Napster. So meeting Daniel was one of the 2 or 3 most important moments in my life. Apart from meeting Sean Fanning and meeting Mark Zuckerberg, meeting Daniel was one of those sort of epiphanies where I realized that there was somebody out there who had thought about this stuff and really understood all of the various complexities of how to work with all the different constituencies, from the artist perspective to the label perspective to the user, the product perspective, and ultimately how to bring all those pieces together, which is really the trick. That's the really hard part. So, Daniel, you want to jump in?
Yeah, well, I mean, the next question that I guess I get asked a lot, but what would be really helpful is kind of get your perspective on this as well. Is, you know, so we did this Open Graph integration today with Facebook, which allows you really to play music and share it with your friends really, really, really easily. How do you think that's really going to affect the music industry? And what's the kind of way forward to get artists to create music again and getting paid for it so that we all can enjoy it?
One of the very important strategic decisions that Daniel and Martin had made before I became involved in the company is they chose to, they released an application on the iPhone, but they chose to make that application exclusively a paid application. And this was an important idea, because Spotify is this closed system that exists on the desktop. It enables frictionless sharing of music between all your friends. It has the same immediate gratification that Napster had, but ultimately it's a closed system. It's a system where if you really want full portability and mobility for your music, you still have to buy it. You either have to, download the songs, or you have to become a subscriber. And the iPhone app was what paved the way for that business model. These guys had come to the realization on their own just prior to our meeting that this was ultimately the most important element in monetization. That really the product that consumers were willing to pay for was convenience. In a sense, convenience had always been the product. You could, in the world of CDs or vinyl or tapes, you would basically go and you buy a piece of media, and it was a physical object, and it worked everywhere. You didn't have to wonder, was it compatible with this device or that device? Did the content expire? Was there digital rights management associated with it? Once you bought the content on one service, was it going to work on other services and so forth? It just worked everywhere. And that product of convenience hadn't existed in the market for 10 years. So I think people like to talk about how piracy was one of the reasons why the music industry has been in decline. And I definitely think it is one of the reasons. But solving the piracy problem can't happen unless you build a service that's more convenient than piracy. So in a sense, Spotify was the first service I ever saw that competed not with everything that preceded it, the iTunes of the world and the Rhapsodies of the world, but it actually competed with piracy.
Okay, so to a more kind of fun note, in the keynote I made, one of the points I made was really how Mark Zuckerberg happens to be this big Taylor Swift fan. So I guess the question to you is...
I didn't know that, actually.
Oh, really? So I guess the question to you then is, what's the song or artist that you probably wouldn't want to admit that you listen to here in Europe?
He actually is putting me on the spot. We did not choreograph this. But I wouldn't...
Yeah. Something really embarrassing.
Something really embarrassing.
You don't get time to think about it.
Oh, God. What is really embarrassing?
As a side story, I can only say...
I'm going to think about this while he talks.
As a side story, I can only say that I don't know if it was like a few months ago when I started seeing Facebook pictures getting posted of Sean as Justin Timberlake back in NSYNC. Could NSYNC be one of that?
That's actually a pretty good question. I owe a great debt to Justin Timberlake, because I think if it weren't for the fact that he played me in a film, I suspect that all of the recording artists that are here tonight may not have shown up, because it's not entirely clear that they knew they were coming to hang out with a bunch of nerds. I think they may have thought that I was actually one of them. The embarrassing band. What's your embarrassing band?
Well, that's a very good one. At the moment, I'm like really into gangster rap. So I've been listening to like Dr. Dre's 2001 album, which I'm pretty sure you guys can start checking out on my Facebook profile pretty soon. In particular, there's been like all these ones where it's time to hit it. It's really good, and so on. What else? So NSYNC, no?
I was never a huge NSYNC fan. I think I was a little old for it.
Right. But you gotta have something.
I know. You know what, if I were to get on Spotify right now, we have a playlist that actually my fiance created called Cheese It. And somewhere on that playlist is the answer to your question.
Really? So we gotta check it out.
Blind Melon's not crap though. Blind Melon, I'm not ashamed at all of my interest in Blind Melon.
One hit wonder.
So anyone get access to Sean's profile here on Spotify and can tell us the answer? I think that's, where we need to get to. So, okay, let's leave that. We'll assume that Sean's a big NSYNC fan. So, another thing that I really wanted to talk to you about is how much do you think sharing and discovery of music really matters in terms of getting the music industry back to where it was?
Well, I mean, I obviously think this is the most important. Has been the most important unanswered question. Without services like Spotify that have a free tier of service, there's actually no way to create social discovery of music and social sharing. Actually, I think in a sense, music discovery has always been social. Obviously, there's been these top-down mediums like MTV and radio, but the actual discovery of music, so much of that has always happened by word of mouth, by people, listening in dorm rooms or playing music for each other, going to clubs or hearing music in a restaurant. So that social process has always been the real fuel. What we've been able to do now, as a result of the integration with Facebook and the inherent frictionless distribution of Spotify, is we've been able to supercharge that social discovery. And I think that the only result, the only possible result of that, of adding that kind of rocket fuel to the natural inherent social sociability of music, is that more people than ever will experience more music than ever before. So the volumes are going to go up dramatically. As long as that's coupled with a powerful monetization platform that actually works, which is really one of the most important breakthroughs that Spotify has been able to deliver to artists and the record industry, is a monetization model that works. As long as those two things work in concert, we basically have a solution.
Cool. So another thing that people in the music industry like to talk about is how it seems like touring and really performing music is the way forward and not sort of recording out of records anymore. What's your view on that?
So I've said this before, but I believe that music has intrinsic value, and I actually believe that we can get back to a place where you can make money selling music itself. We don't actually need to sell all these. To Daniel's point, there's been a lot of discussion about all these collateral things around music, these peripheral things like selling T-shirts and selling tickets and merchandise. And how that might be the only way that bands can actually subsist and prosper in this brave new world of digital. I actually don't think that's true at all. I think we're on the cusp of a rebirth in the recorded music business. I actually think that we're going to get back to a point where, and we're well on our way to a world where the intrinsic value of music is actually once again monetizable.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Sean, for doing this with me. Who's ready to party?
Okay, don't get them too wound up because we're going to do the panel, right?